Hi, it's Steve Riley. Welcome to this episode of Great Practice, Great Life. And we have a fascinating one for you today. This particular episode is going to touch everything from helping you have a great life to thinking about niching with a great practice and wrestling with the question as you build your law firm, regardless of your role inside the law firm, team member, associate, legal assistant, owner, what are the core things that make the law firm valuable? So I've got a unique guest with a unique perspective and who's also a long-term member of the Atticus community. With that, Ed Alexander, welcome to the episode.
Thank you, Steve. Glad to be here.
It's great to have you here. And you're in such a unique position to talk about this. And I just want our audience to understand a little bit of your background because the core of what I want you to focus on is what are the things that drive the value in a law firm? And you own part of a law firm brokerage, you advise lawyers on buying and selling their practice. But before we get into that, I want people to actually understand the context of why you have such a unique perspective and a unique insight on this particular topic. Does that work for you?
That works for me, Steve.
Okay, so let's just start with the first question. And I get criticized by my colleague and co producer, co writer, co conspirator in the Great Life, Great podcast. Great Life, Great Practice episodes. They don't do enough talking about great life. So, Ed, in preparing for this, I realized that you actually have a pretty great life. And I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions to highlight things because you're kind of living what we like to see our members do, which is going for that great life experience. So talk to me about what you love to do and who you love to do it with.
So Steve, let's see, love to do a lot of things. That's one thing there, right? So first off, I am a super biker. I absolutely love getting out on the bike. I own way too many bikes. I've got a bike for every reason, every season, that kind of thing. I love to get out and kayak. Florida is an absolutely wonderful place to do kayaking. And I love to spend time with my wife and my two kids. Now, the two kids are older, they're out of the house, they all have careers of their own. And so it's just me and my wife most times now. But we've been together for 40 years this year. So our 40th anniversary is coming up. And yeah, I love the life I live.
But I've seen a lot of younger lawyers drive by this incredible opportunity about how to build their law firm so it's valuable enough to a buyer. And some of the older lawyers don't really pay that much attention to it until they suddenly say, okay, I'd like to transition or sell my practice. And they sometimes have what I would call, and this is my term, not yours, Ed, a shag carpet practice.
Mhm.
And I looked at acquiring a couple of practices when I was practicing, and I would go into this office, and the guy was, 70, 75 years old. Marge worked for him. They had Tandy computers. They had cables running across the floor and literally had like shag carpet and would want a significant amount of money for this practice. And his argument was, hey, look, I got a great phone number and I've got all these wonderful old files, but my clients are my friends. Whenever they say that, that means my pricing is probably 80% below market.
Yeah.
And you look at this and you're like, this is not a asset. This is a liability. This is a shag carpet practice because they had not thought about it. Like they had not really built that firm with the intention of making it valuable enough to sell. So I think what you're going to help us think about is incredibly valuable to no matter where you're at in the organization, no matter where you're at in your life cycle of growing a practice. But there's one unique element I would like you to spend some time on so people can also appreciate the great practice angle. You actually started as one of the original practice advisors at Atticus back in the day before it was called Atticus. So let's talk about that for a few minutes because your insight as a practice advisor not only shows up in the practice, but it also shows up in the brokerage. It also shows up in your advising of attorneys. It also shows up as a incredible source of wisdom to help lawyers think about how do they build a practice that's valuable enough to sell. So talk to me for a few minutes about that, please.
So when I first became a lawyer, I ended up working at the tech firm that I was at, and then I ended up coming down here, and quickly learned that you had to build a practice, otherwise you were going to be stuck behind a desk and just billing hours all the time. And it's funny, there was this guy called Mark Powers who put an ad in the Orange County Bar Briefs. And I was reading it. And I said, oh, maybe this guy could help me. And Mark and I connected up at that point in time and had a great relationship. And then at one point, I was ready to sell the practice I had. I hadn't really developed it the way the practice is today. And so a friend of mine was interested in buying a practice and I sold it to him. And I went in and worked, for Atticus as a practice advisor. And I did that for a number of years and really enjoyed it. I mean, I would present with Patrick and Glenn, and we would represent, well, I guess, uh, advise clients, as their practice advisors, and really got a wealth of knowledge. I mean, absolute wealth of knowledge because you got to touch so many different practices, right? And I just ate up the whole idea of the business of law. I love the business of law. And that really is part of what led me into this niche is it's just a natural thing that I just enjoy reading about and setting things up and all of that. David Maister's books at the time, they were new and really interesting for me. And then, you start to follow on with general business books. So great stuff. I loved what we were doing, but at one point in the process, I decided, I really wanted to build my own law firm because now I had all this great knowledge and I wanted to go out there. But I will tell you that, from those early days, I really owe Mark and Sean a real debt of gratitude because they absolutely helped me develop this practice. And I will be forever grateful to them for that.
How long would you recommend to a lawyer to ramp up to get a practice ready for sale?
Well, I would like to see 5 years, right? At a minimum, 5 years. But have we done it with somebody who wants to leave in three? Yes, we've done it with somebody who wants to leave in three. If you get much less than three, it is really difficult to go out and find a buyer. Now, if you have an internal buyer who is somebody who knows what they're doing, and that's really the key, they've got to know what they're doing. You probably could get it done in a year, right? But if you've got a junior associate, you need much more time than that. If you're trying to do an internal sale to a junior associate, it they have to come up to speed not only in the practice area, but they also have to come up to speed on how to run a business. Those are two big things to learn, right?
I think that's the biggest mistake that I see a lot of attorneys make when they've hired this associate who's technically competent. I mean, they know they're a good lawyer, but they've got no project management experience, no marketing experience.
Mhm.
They're not managing team. And if they are managing team, they're managing team poorly. They have no business skills. They have no comprehensive understanding of how a law firm works. They don't understand the rule of three. And it's one of the things I try and encourage a lot of our law firm owners to do. If you've got an associate that you think is semi decent, they don't have to be great, get them in with one of our programs. If you've got multiple associates, and I'm doing this with a law firm right now, we're trying to train up the associates who are incredibly resistant to any form of change.
Mhm.
Like, "I'm doing great legal work. Why are you guys bothering me?"
Right.
And you're saying, "Hey, look, we're actually trying to groom you to be a partner. You're being looked as a partner. And so we want to talk to you about how you manage your time. We want to talk to you about how to ask your clients for referrals. We want to talk to you about how to manage your interruptions, how to organize your life, how to have a great practice and a great life." And they're just fight tooth and nail. And the partners are like, "What's wrong with him?" I'm like, "You hired the wrong lawyer.
Right. That
You
that that is exactly right. You hired the wrong lawyer and it's not going to work. If they aren't already interested in that, it's not going to work.
What would your advice be on taking time off? Good thing, bad thing? what would you say?
I would say it's a good thing because at the end of the day, if you can show a buyer that I live a life and this is the net income. So I'm not asking you to work 80 or 100 hours a week on the firm. I work 40 hours a week on the firm and I've taken 6 weeks of vacation off. And this is the earning potential of the firm or the actual earnings of the firm, not even potential. Then I think you've got a powerful firm there because you've got a firm that really allows the owner to get the benefit of being an owner of a law firm, right? So I love it. I think it's a great thing.
Okay, fantastic.